had people write a future plan for only an hour when they came for their school orientation in the summer before going to, it's a community college. And it dropped the dropout rate among young men by 50%. And it's, yeah, no kidding, 50%. Yeah. And what that meant was, to me, just think about that. What that means is that these kids had been educated for 12 years and no one had ever sat them down and said, okay, what the hell are you doing and why? And how are you going to get, like, where do you want to go? Why do you want to get there? How are you going to get there? How are you going to mark your progress? They've never walked them through that exercise. You walk people through that exercise just to get them to do that increases the probability that they'll stay on track by 50%.
That's incredible. Well, it's one of the things I've always complained about is that people teach you facts. They don't teach you how to approach life. They don't teach you how to think. They don't teach you how to confront
or why to think.
Insecurities and different traps that your mind will set up for you.
Yeah, well, that's partly what's so fun about doing this lecture tour, because that's exactly what I'm talking to people about. One of the things I talk about is, well, why do you think? Why bother thinking? It's like, you think, well, that's obvious. It's like, no, actually, it's not so obvious. It's like the issue that I discuss with my students at university a lot is, well, why write a good essay? Why bother? Well, to get the grade. It's like, no, that's not why. And if you think that, well, that's better than not thinking that there's any reason for writing, but it's a bad reason. Why write? Well, writing is a form of thinking. It's actually the most demanding form of thinking, I would say. There's other forms that are demanding. So how do you write a good essay? Pick a topic that matters to you. Because if you're not writing about something that matters to you, it's like you're not living something that's meaningful. It's wrong. You're not going to write a good essay because you're wrong right to begin with. It has to matter to you. Well, why does it matter? What does it mean that it matters? Well, it means that it's going to affect how you make decisions in your life. Something that matters affects how you make decisions in your life. Well, why does it matter how you make decisions in your life? Because if you make so stupid decisions, you're going to increase the sum total of suffering a lot. You're going to do stupid things to yourself. You're going to do stupid things to other people. And you're not going to be as good a person as you could be. So not only will you do stupid and terrible things, but you won't have manifested the good in the world that you could have manifested. So that's the lack. So you write an essay so that you can think, and you think so that you can live properly. And so you write damn carefully. You make sure that every single bloody word is a word that you want to use. And you make sure the phrases that you put the words in are as solid as they can be. And you make sure the sentences are well constructed and that they're organized into proper paragraphs and the paragraphs are sequenced and the content of the thing matters. And you put your soul into it. And you know when you've done that because it's gripping when you write. It's meaningfully engaging. And this is another thing that I've been sharing with my audiences. Meaning is actually an instinct. Like you think, okay, so we already decided that incremental self-improvement is the proper route. Okay, so how do you know when you're incrementally self-improving properly? And the answer is it's deeply engaging. It's deeply meaningful. And the reason for that is you're actually adapted neurologically to identify the pathway of maximal incremental improvement. That was a discovery conceptually by a guy named Vygotsky, who was a Russian neuropsychologist who coined the term zone of proximal development. You hear now and then people say they're in the zone. That's the zone of proximal development. And that's that place that you occupy when you're improving at the rate that's optimal to you. And your sense of intrinsic meaning signifies that. That's how your bloody brain is wired. And so then you might say, well, what's the antidote to the tragedy and malevolence of life? And the answer is to put yourself in the zone of proximal development, because that's where the maximal meaning is. And that actually does prepare you for life. And so the question, why think, is, well, you think before you act, and you act to put yourself in the zone of proximal development, and you do that as an antidote to the catastrophe of life. Well, that's the answer. And the thing that's cool about that, and then this is, I think, part of what I've been telling people that's sort of novel is, well, where's the meaning? The meaning is in responsibility. Because people avoid that's Peter Pan again, avoid responsibility. It's just a burden. It's like, no, it's not. It is a burden, but voluntarily hoisted. It's the place of maximal meaning. And the more responsibility you take, the more meaning you have. And that's the antidote to the catastrophe of life. And everybody also knows this, because just look, it's so simple. When are you sick of yourself? Well, that's when you're being useless and irresponsible for yourself and for your family and for your community. You're not even taking care of yourself. Well, you can't sleep with a clean conscience unless you're psychopathic, if you're not taking care of yourself. And then when are you not awake in the morning at 3 a.m. tearing yourself apart with a guilty conscience? It's when you've done something useful, at least for you. You know, and you can say, oh, well, check one on my side. You say, okay, so fine, you adopt a little responsibility for yourself and you can sleep with a clean conscience. What happens if you adopted full responsibility for yourself? And then for your family?